Okay, welcome back, everyone. We are reconvening the regular council meeting tonight at 6 p.m. First on the agenda is the council meeting minutes for approval, and that is the regular council meeting held January 13th, 2025. Be adopted as circulated.
Make that motion.
Councillor Wilson and Councillor Hanson, all those in favor? That was carried, thank you. Item number 12 is the resolution to adopt the committee of the whole recommendations and the recommendations from the January 13th, 2025 committee of the whole meeting to be considered for adoptions. And the first one up is Stories to Solutions, the proposed project overview, December 2024. Is there someone, Councillor Wilson? Seconder, Councillor Martin, all those in favor?
Can I
Oh,
speak to
sure,
that?
go
Is that-
ahead.
Just a question, through the chair, Mayor Jones. At the conclusion of Mrs. James's, delegation presentation at the committee of the whole on January the 13th, I raised the question or concern that perhaps she should be applying for this grant and aid through our council grant and aid policy. And Ms. Butler did speak to that, but I see 2 weeks has passed and I haven't seen a application as per that policy. So my question through the chair is why wasn't an application made through this policy for this $7,500 cash grant request, which also includes a $7,500 in value gift in kind for related staff expenses? That's the question I'm having. Why aren't we following our policy for this particular cash grant? Thank you.
Through the
Um,
chair, simply, we forgot to get the grant application from her. It was our error. We also, because this is also, comes with the letter of support that they were asking for, which is above and beyond what a grant application would deal with. So we clumped them together and got them back on the agenda. They did do a delegation.
Deadline of January 31st.
And the deadline is, January 31st for them to apply.
Through the chair, I appreciate the deadline. However, I'm not comfortable as it stands to apply, approve a grant when clearly the application, well, none of the criteria has been met, including financial statements and other criteria. So and I'm not comfortable making an exception at this particular point in time for this, because we set a precedent that basically kind of defies our whole goal of being transparent and being fair. So that's my position on this. I would make a motion that it be returned to Selkirk College to invite them to make the full grant application process as per our policy. I would make that motion. If somebody wants to second it.
I second that. Okay, thank you, Councillor Benson. Is there any other comments on that? Questions or, go ahead, Councillor Hanson.
Well, I understand the purpose of, the homelessness epidemic that we're all facing in our communities. I have a hard time with Trail, Castlegar, Nelson only bridging the costs of this. I think it's important that all of our neighboring municipalities and our regional districts understand that homelessness is a rural problem. It's not simply the problem of 3 municipalities. We tend to have where the congregation occurs, but everybody that participates in those, communities is affected by it. So I just would ask with this letter of support that we request that our neighboring communities also get sent asking for a letter of support or financial contribution.
Okay, so right now we're just dealing with the Stories to Solutions, the proposed project overview. The Selkirk College letter of support will be doing it separately. It's two individual.
Just to clarify, what I remember Jamie saying was, sorry, through the chair, Trail, Castlegar, Nelson each contributed 75, and I just wanted to correct that also the regional districts, but I agree with you, there was no other line, and she said that they wouldn't be doing it this time, so, I do agree, I think that, a lot of our tax dollars go to support, and which I think it's worthwhile, but I think when there's something, especially a project like this that they're gonna like learn a lot from, I think that it should be expanded to all of our area, and we have people in our shelter from our neighboring communities.
Mhm, mhm. And I do want to thank Councillor Cashel for bringing this forward again. For the transparency part, I think it is really important that we do follow the policy that we set out. So I would totally support your motion, Councillor Cashel. I think there was a little bit of an urgency to get this on the agenda for this council, and I really, I'm not sure how to bring this forward so that we can move it forward, or to bring it back at next council. Will it be too late for their funding? Go ahead.
Your worship, we currently have a motion on the floor that Councillor Cashel has placed, and it's that the application be returned to Selkirk College with a request for them to apply through the city's grant application process. Is that correct?
That is correct, Ms. Butler.
And so
Thank you.
we need to vote on that first.
Okay. So is
To-
there,
It's
sorry,
a-
go ahead.
To that point, could a special council meeting be held before the end of the month to accommodate if necessary? It can be done.
Option.
So let's deal with the motion
Mhm.
first. So we have a motion on the floor. Was there a seconder?
I seconded it.
Sorry, thank you, Councillor Benson. All those in favor of the motion? As, okay. It was carried.
And is there a follow-up motion to that, or?
As for timing,
Through the chair, I would suggest that we will go back to them first thing tomorrow, and if they can get the application into us, then we will see who's available for a quick special
This
meeting.
is just for me, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, sorry,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, maybe could that be part of the motion that we, if,
Offer
if, completed in time, that councils, will do their best effort to be in this special meeting before the 31st of January.
Yeah, I don't think we actually need a
Need that?
motion for that. If we
Okay.
get it back, we'll make it happen.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that motion was carried, and the second motion is the Selkirk College letter of support. So is that relevant now that we're moving the?
No, it's not. They needed the money with
Okay.
the letter of support, so that will come again when the grant application. So that motion that you see on the agenda tonight will not be in the minutes. It'll just be the motion that was that was put on the table by Councillor Cashel. So
Okay,
then we move on to the next motion, which is the one about the two reports.
okay, thank you for that, so help there. The next resolution to be adopted is that the following items considered and received for information at the January 13th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted. And they are the bylaw enforcement report of December 2024 and the report on invoices paid for municipal services November 24. Is there someone to move that? Councillor
I'll
Butler?
second that.
Councillor Wilson, a second. All those in favor? That was carried. So the Committee of the Whole recommendations from the January 27th, 2024 meeting for adoption. And these are the motions to be brought forward from this afternoon's Committee of the Whole portion of the meeting, and they are to be considered individually. The recommendation that council approve the award of the Cominco Arena refrigerated floor replacement contract to Reward Construction Limited with a base price of $1,894,000 plus all applicable taxes, fees, and charges.
And we can do this as one motion.
Okay, and further, that council award the supply and installation of associated dashboard infrastructure to Athletic Sport Systems Incorporated with a base price of $729,000 plus all applicable taxes, fees, and charges. Councillor Cashel and Councillor Hanson, all those in favor? That was carried. Thank you. Okay, reports and special meetings at the council, don't see anything. Regional District of Kootenai Boundary, Councillor Martin.
Thank you through the chair. On behalf of council, I attended the following meetings on January the 15th, an RDKB Utilities meeting via Teams. Reviewed a staff report regarding an update on the status of water conservation plans for the Beaver Valley Water Service, the Rivervale and Streetlight Service, and Christina Lake Utility. Reviewed work plans and 5-year financial plans for the following: Big White Streetlight Service, Beaverdale Light Service, Beaver Valley Water Service, Christina Lake Water Utility Service, Columbia Gardens Water Utility Service, Rivervale Water and Street Light Service, East End Regional Sewer Service, and the Oasis and Rivervale Sewer Service. On January the 15th, I attended an RDKB board meeting via Teams. Highlights were project update and 2024 annual report from Boundary Community Ventures Association from Representative Vicky G. We had a presentation regarding the proposed Janelle Community Park Plan. There was forestry referral for notice of harvest from Atco Wood Products for one section in Area A and one section in Area B, and approved 10 grant and aid applications for areas A, B, C, and E. On January the 16th, I attended an RDKB Liquid Waste Management Planning meeting in Trail. I was fortunate enough to be elected as vice chair for that committee. And we had an update regarding the progress of the Columbia Pollution Control Center project. On January the 16th, we had an RDKB Solid Waste Management Committee meeting in Trail. Reviewed the terms of reference for the committee for the new members. And they're planning a tour of the RDCK Organics Composting Facility in Salmo this spring. January 21st, I attended an RDKB East End Services meeting in Trail. We had a presentation from the Trail and District Chamber of Commerce and funding request for 2025. We had a presentation from Tourism Management Strategy by Andrea Miller. Destination Castlegar for a proposed 3-year tourism strategy project with associated funding requests. There was a presentation from the Trail Wildlife Association regarding the Columbia River Cleanup Project, which we've had here before. Reviewed the work plan and 5-year financial plan for the regional parks and trails for Area B, Lower Columbia, Old Glory. The Culture, Arts, and Recreation for Lower Columbia. The Noxious Weed Control, Area A, Columbia Gardens. Victim Services and East End Economic Development. East End Cemeteries, East End Transit, and KBRFR. And we were also presented with our 2024 stats. January 22nd, West Kootenai Boundary Regional Hospital District meeting in Castlegar. The new chair for the committee is Everett Baker, who is the mayor of Grand Forks. The vice chair is Susan Hewitt, who is the mayor of Caslow. The executive committee is Leonard Casney, mayor of New Denver, Keith Page, councillor from Nelson, Sharon Gibbs, RDKB Area E director, and myself. They went over the Interior Health 2025-26 capital funding request, and we had a clinical operations update from Landon DeVest. Bylaw 421 for the KBRH MRI expansion project was adopted. Now CT scanners in both KBRH and Nelson will be replaced this year. There will be a mobile unit brought in that will be in place at each site during the upgrades, so there should be little to no interruption to each facility's respective schedules. January 23rd, I attended a Trail Historical Society AGM. It was a well-attended event with a presentation from the Golden City Railway Modelers Club. We'll be hosting a larger event this summer at the mall with many other clubs. This morning, Councillor Benson and myself attended a Community Safety Task Force meeting. We had a report from Fire Chief Dan Derby about KBRFR. We also reviewed the letter and questions from Trail N2 group that was originally sent last September. Councillor Benson and myself will provide council a report on the information that was discussed. That's it for my report. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Is there any questions for Councillor Martin before we move forward? Okay, so we have, moving on, we have one proclamation tonight, and that proclamation is, the resolution is before you, but the request is from the Guillain-Barré Syndrome Foundation of Canada requesting to proclaim May 2025 as the GPBS-CIDP Awareness Month in the City of Trail to be approved. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hanson and Councillor Wilson. All those in favor? That was carried. Thank you. Okay, on to my report. I really don't have much of a report. It's been a busy couple of weeks, mostly working on my interviews with the tariff, the threat of the tariff in Canada, basically. But when Mr. Eby was talking about it, he happened to mention the City of Trail and tech operations, and it seemed as soon as that happened, several phone calls and people wanting to do interviews. So I did spend quite a bit of time on that. I also just want to report that I have been very busy with the emergency weather response shelter. And I do have some stats here, just a quick report on the usage of the shelter. It was open for 5 days and then closed and then open again for 2. But the first night they had 16 people. And then their last night that they had open, they had 28 people, but only 20 people stayed. So of course, they wanted to make sure that they maintained the fire code. Over those days, there was 425 overall visits. Again, they were open for 5 days and then closed and then open for 2. So you can imagine when they open, we have to activate the shelter, send out the activation notice so everybody gets notice that there is a new shelter opening up for emergency services. And then 24 hours before we close, we have to deactivate the shelter. So that information has to go out again. And then 2 days later, we had to reactivate the shelter. And then 2 days after that, we had to deactivate again. So it's very time consuming. It went well overall, a little bit different energy this time at the shelter though. And I think it's because it's been a year since they've had the shelter. And quite honestly, the whole atmosphere was a little bit more aggressive. So, yeah, it was quite interesting. That's why there were so many visits, I think 425 visits in 5 days. And then 2 days added on to that. So that was people just coming in and out, trying to get reprieve from the weather, having a bite to eat, trying to get warmed up, trying to get cleaned up. So it was a very busy time, but very effective. So we are in deactivation mode right now and will be until we hit that target temperature once again, -10. And what's interesting to note as well is that the shelter in Trail, and I believe at Castlegar as well, their target temperature is -10. And we did communicate with each other, they were shutting down. So we thought it was best that, if they were going down, we all went down at the same time. And that actually worked out really well. So, waiting to see what that looks like coming in the future. Of course, it depends on the weather, and it looks like it's going to be half decent for the next little while. I know that -10 sounds like a very cold condition to be out in the weather, but that's what the province has actually set it at this year, so that's what we're working with. So I just really want to thank all the volunteers that helped with the shelter so far, and all the community businesses that have supported us with food and drink as well. And that's my report for tonight. Any questions, Councilor Cashel?
Thank you, Mary Jo. Just a couple of questions around the temporary shelter. Is there security on site?
We didn't have security this time. We did have it Sunday morning for 3 hours because there had been quite a count that started to build around the church.
Cause through the chair, my understanding last year, there was security on site for pretty much the entire time it was open. Was that the practice this year?
No, we didn't have security on site. We actually had someone that, had the security education, how to deal with that, aggressive people. And she was, there as a volunteer this time, and she did work for Selkirk Security, it was Jackie. And so she was there on a volunteer basis this time.
So I guess just a follow-up question, is there concern then for safety for the volunteers and for the shelter users if there is aggressive behavior happening?
You know, we have Tammy McLean there who is really knowledgeable about that. And we also had Carly Olson there, and they're both very well trained in that. So we were just really wanted to see how things went this time, because it went fairly well last time. It was, you know, people were very well behaved, and we thought, you know, that would be a great way to save some money too. Knowing though that if they did need it, they were going to, you know, ask for it.
Just one final question, excuse me, through the chair, were the RCMP called to the shelter?
I believe they were called once.
Okay, thank you.
One ambulance call and one police call,
Okay, thank you, Mary
and
Jo.
no overdoses.
Thank you.
Thank you through the chair. When volunteers sign up, do they know that there's no security presence at the warming shelter? They do, okay.
They signed up for the positions.
With knowing that there's no,
Well, I mean, there was actually, because Jackie was there. She wasn't there as security, but she was there. We knew that she had the experience as security from last year. Counselor Hanson.
So of the 425 visits, just wondering, any of the daytime visitors, were they from the temporary shelter that's currently on Riverside? Or were these new people that we were unaware of? Like, were these people that did have shelter that were just there during the day? Or were these people that don't have a home as a whole, of those 420?
The shelter wasn't open during the day. It opened at 8 o'clock at night.
Okay, I'm
To
sorry,
8 in the
well then,
morning.
let me rephrase that. Were any of those individuals from the other shelter visiting the
No.
shelter?
No, we discouraged against that this year.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you. So we have two bylaws for consideration. First one is a bylaw to amend the City of Charles zoning bylaw number 2503, 2002, and the bylaw is 2943. And the recommendation is council consider and resolve that the zoning amendment bylaw number 2943 be adopted. Councilor Wilson, Councilor Hanson, all those in favor? That was carried, thank you. And the next one is a bylaw to amend the annual indemnity to be paid to the mayor and councillors. And that's bylaw number 2948. And the resolution is that council indemnity bylaw number 2948 be adopted. Councilor Wilson, Councilor Butler, all those in favor? That was carried, thank you. Any notice of motion? So our next meeting is set for February 10th at 2025, the committee of the whole meeting, followed by a regular council meeting at 6 o'clock, held in the council committee room and or chambers at 1394 Pine Avenue, Trail BC, and also via Zoom. Anybody or question period?
Two individuals. Yeah, we have two individuals. If either of the individuals that are attending online wish to ask a question, can you please use the raise hand function at this time? Not seeing any raised hands.
Okay, we'll call for adjournment. Councilor Wilson and Councilor,
Butler.
Thank you. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.